We are waiting for former President Trump to appeal Colorado's ruling, kicking him off the ballot under the Constitution's so-called insurrection clause. He has not been charged with insurrection, so of course he hasn't been convicted of it in any state. The Colorado Republican Party has appealed this case to the Supreme Court. It is currently stayed, and the Trump legal team is challenging a similar decision that came about in Maine. The Supreme Court could also end up ruling soon on the former president's claim of immunity in his federal election interference January 6 case that Jack Smith is pursuing as well. A lot on the plate. So the justices rejected a request from the special counsel Smith to fast track that immunity decision. They said, no, it's going to go to the D.C. Circuit Court. We're going to wait until they weigh in. Here's what one Senate Democrat had to say about the high court's potential role in the upcoming election.
All of that sets a really important set of historic questions for this country to answer, and many of them are going to end up in front of a very MAGA-ized Supreme Court.
A very MAGA-ized Supreme Court is the way he termed that. Let's bring in Alina Habba, a lawyer for former President Trump. Alina, thank you. Good to have you with us today. What's your reaction to Sheldon Whitehouse referring to this Supreme Court as a MAGA-ized court?
It's the narrative they love to do to scare you, right? To make you think that the Constitution actually isn't correct on this one, that it's just in fact that we have a Supreme Court that is MAGA-ized. I mean, I've never heard them use a phrase that is all positive. Make America great again. It's not destroy America. It's not corrupt our children, open our borders. It's make America great again. And they use it to scare these incredibly radical left people and to make them believe that the Supreme Court, the highest court in this country, would be as radical and ridiculous as some of the corrupt Soros-backed AGs and DAs that I've seen in court against Donald Trump. It's a tactic. It's a typical left-wing tactic. We've seen it time and time again. I'm looking forward to seeing what their decision is. They are going to have to make tough decisions, obviously, but to me, the law is very clear. There's due process. There's rights to trial. There's rights to be heard. You can't call someone an insurrectionist that never did an insurrection, that's never been guilty of an insurrection. It's un-American, it's ridiculous, and it's frankly election interference at its finest. They're just desperate, Martha. You know that.
So what is the next move from your team, from the legal team, in terms of the Colorado decision, which you all have not appealed yet?
It's imminent. It's imminent. We will be doing so.
Okay. This is what Maggie Haberman had to say about the 3 justices that were appointed under President Trump and potential concerns about that. Watch this.
He has also voiced some concern that a court that has, he appointed 3 of the justices to the Supreme Court and it gave the conservatives a supermajority. He is concerned that they are going to look as if they're trying not to rule in his favor and might rule against him.
What do you say about that, Alina?
Yeah, that's a concern that he's voiced to me. He's voiced to everybody publicly, not privately. And I can tell you that his concern is a valid one. Republicans are conservative. They get nervous. They, unfortunately, are sometimes shy away from being pro-Trump because they feel that even if the law's on our side, they may appear to be swayed much like the Democratic side would do, right? So they're trying so hard to look neutral that sometimes they make the wrong call. And I just encourage them to really look at the law and the Constitution. It's very clean cut, Martha. There's no politics that should be involved in this. It's just simply American. And if the justices read the law as I do, as most Americans and attorneys do, even Dershowitz, who's a known liberal, it's just a simple decision, and it should have nothing to do with if you're a Republican or a Democrat. So I don't know. It's Maggie. I'm a friend of Maggie's, even though we're on different sides of the coin. But she's right. The president's always concerned about people worrying about that.
Very interesting. So we'll watch for the D.C. Circuit decision on the immunity, and then the Supreme Court will take up that issue, and we will, on the immunity part of whether or not the president is immune from this prosecution, and then we'll also wait for the Colorado appeal that you say is coming imminently. So we'll be watching. Alina, thank you very much. Great to have you with us today.
Thank you, Martha.
Welcome back. All right, so 1 week from tonight, Bret Baier and I will sit down with the former President Trump in Iowa, and a room full of voters and potential caucus goers just days before the first in the nation caucus. That will be January 10th, 9 p.m. Eastern here on Fox. We're going to have a very busy and really fascinating week out in Iowa.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.